Mark here for another great Wisdom and Knowledge 5 podcast. And I bring back Caroline Bergin, and she's going to talk about, education and the kids. Caroline, welcome back from sunny Ontario, Canada, right?
Definitely not sunny here, Mark. I think that's where we first met was in our sharing of what's going on with the weather manipulation. And I don't know what it is, why I've noticed it so much in the last few years, definitely the last year. And it is not comfortable. There's so much going on, but and I do think it's a little bit of a invitation
Hmm.
and an initiation for the kind of higher I guess for me, I see it as like, how did I not see this so clearly before? So I see it as
Sure,
like an invitation to witness and see it because it's really in my face, in our faces. So much more is being shared about it. Um, and it's kind of scary. Recently, I read something about the composition in the chemtrails is actually trying to make the planet unlivable for humans.
mm, that's
So,
surprising.
yeah. So, I do want to speak about education. That's where my heart is. We talked last time about how to stay grounded in these crazy times, how to stay true to our human parts of us, that we will witness injustices, and how do we stay grounded, and also how do we guide the children through this. The reason that I chose to work with children after many years of activism is, they're the future. It's pretty obvious.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't speak to the children about chemtrails. Sometimes the other day in class, I said, let's all acknowledge the sun and say hi to the sun, and because it hadn't been out in a while, and they all were very excited
Sure.
to do that, So they're just sweet, innocent children. For me, I see them as the closest to source. They're the most unjaded. They're pure love and energy for the most part, right? I do think that they're being indoctrinated quite severely. Unfortunately, if they don't have conscious parents, which just means parents that don't question the system, parents that are in the 3D reality, which I have to work, you have to go to school, parents, yeah, who are just not questioning doing the same old thing, the old paradigm, right? We're just doing the same old thing and expecting different results. And I show up, I realized, working in the school system, the public school system is not it's not what I want to do. I'm against that system.
Mhm.
And but I feel like I have been placed there because I have this understanding that we radiate energy. And so my higher powers, my higher guides, they say, just show up and be yourself, and being present with them is going to give them comfort, is going to support them in their own energy field as well. And so I show up as like, it's almost like a duty. I do want to shift into more alternative education. I just feel like I can't keep pushing myself energetically. I'm getting older now.
Mhm.
Um, I will say that this past week was amazing in the schools. There was a lot more smiles coming from the adults. I don't know what shifted. I say this because we're a community. We're at school 5 days a week. And if we cannot bring our best selves and show the children through good example of interacting with each other from a high vibe, good energy, I mean, where are they going to get it? So I was really happy to see more smiling faces, good mornings, and yeah. So thanks for thanks for letting me share that. I'm a sensitive little being, and so
Mhm.
everything feels like something, and I think we're all having to stay really grounded and positive right now. I know you are really presenting the truth of what's happening as an opposing kind of order, and I appreciate that about you. I just don't know if everybody knows how to process it and and al
Exactly.
and alchemize it into a higher order of thinking. Marianne Williamson, are you aware of her?
I am not. Please elaborate on who she is.
She's the famous author, Return to Love. She did Conversations with God,
Hmm.
um, or she did something of that sort. But she's the one that wrote that poem. Our greatest fear is not that we are less than. Our greatest fear is that we are more powerful than we
Hmm.
think. So we're afraid of our power. And she recently, within the last 5 years, she was actually up for running for presidency. She was a small part, but she recently just went online and was sharing that, as a species, we need to not necessarily focus on what's not working, but instead take the example of the past, any animal, any species that needs to readapt and
Hmm.
find new solutions and ways to live. So,
Yes.
so if their environment's being threatened, we have to cultivate new solutions to create better habitats and better ways of being. Um, One thing I wanted to talk to you about, obviously, about the education, because I just feel like that is a huge channel of indoctrination, and I want to be really clear that it's not for me. It's not about damning anybody. It's just it's not working. We love
Hmm.
and care about our humanity so much so that we have to shift our perspective and we have to shift the way we're doing things. Rockefeller was who started the education system for
Yep.
productivity. We
Hmm.
have to be aware of that. Your children sitting in desks, the 9 to 5 or whatever it is, 9 to 3. Some kids are in school from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that's indoctrinating a cycle that's not natural, forcing them out
Hmm.
of the house when they're just slightly waking up, having to sit up and be attentive at a young age, early in the morning. And it was through Rockefeller, it was imposed upon the people. So we have to start challenging these things. Otherwise, we are enslaved to a system.
Yep.
And we will not have choice. Our choice is through critical thinking, is through being free thinkers. Does this work for my family? Does this work for my children? Does this work for me? And if the answer is not an absolute yes, then it's time to go back to the drawing board and look at what needs to change.
Hmm.
What do you think about all that?
One thing that, this has been going on for ages because I remember growing up, I went to Catholic school until 10th grade, but in grade school, right? This is during the first Iraq war. So this would be like 90, 91 or whatever. They played on the intercom of our school. They put the radio on and they said this song is being played across I think it was just the US, across the US, standing in solidarity of war. Like I'm all about, okay, the military, but they were indoctrinating kids into saying war is great. We love war. And then they play Bette Midler's song From a Distance. And it just, we're like, you could have played a better song than this, but they're doing that to indoctrinate kids across America to think, hey, war's good. We gotta, and it's like, no, but that's exactly what they were doing. And there's so many things, I'm sure, whether it be the food that they were feeding us in school, you name it, they're indoctrinating you that this stuff is safe, this stuff is good for you, and it's not, you know?
Totally, like Coca-Cola was in our schools, like huge
Hmm.
corporations just completely milking the system and the children with no choices, and no education on, fine, have a Coca-Cola, but first know how much sugar's in them, what they do, what that can do internally. Yeah, it's really sad. It's taking advantage of the vulnerable. I know for myself that I'm not in this anymore. To I have to bring it back down to simple, tactful, reasonable things to be able to do. And one, first and foremost, is my own self care. I have to stay in my own practice. I refuse now to hang out with people who are negative. Um,
Hmm.
I just don't welcome it anymore. I also don't argue with them, though. I don't even take the time to argue. It's just, you're not in my life anymore. A good journey for you, and blessings and on the way. But and that's I'm so grateful for that, because I was a feisty kid. I was fighting them all, and even within my own family, constantly questioning their what they were. I was raised Catholic as well, and loved the idea of God, loved and actually had a very intimate relationship with this higher power, but I didn't see it being reciprocated into the actions of my
Hmm.
family, and so I felt very confused. I have very much had to take an activist role from a pretty young age. Some people are now calling that like parentifying, where we had to become the parent
Hmm.
young, and they really thought that if they had instilled these traditions in us, we were just supposed to obey. Well, we're not made that way. We're made to think. We're made to break the rules. Some of us, I know for me, I'm no longer denying the fact that I'm a rebel to the core,
Hmm.
and that doesn't mean I'm this violent person. It just means I question things,
Yeah.
and I don't just question them for myself. I question them for everyone. No one wants poison in their food. I don't think so. No one wants poison in their air, in their
Hmm.
water. And so we have to be intelligent, and, you know, what else was I think recently? I have some amazing friends, but recently I heard that, saw and heard the arrest of some people down in the States. So, this United States is very proud of their free speech, democracy, all of that. They're arresting people who are practicing that. They're
Yeah.
sending them to jail. I mean, if that's not in the face of all American citizens should be concerned about that.
Hmm.
If one person's rights are going to be taken, yours are going to be taken too. Just because you think you're saying the right things right now doesn't mean in 5 or 10 years you're not going to be against what's going to come up, and your freedom and your rights will be taken away. This should concern everyone, you know? And so, am I going to fight the government? Am I going to fight the system? Absolutely not. Am I going to utilize my freedom and my ability to be the human being I want to be? Absolutely. Am I going to keep my circle small? Absolutely. Will that have ripple effect? For sure. Even what we're doing right now, they say there's so much power in speech that we're co-creating the new world, even just through speaking, contemplating, coming up with new ideas. We're forming the new world. That's why I think it's important not to spiritually bypass, but to stay positive, know that we have an impact. What do we want the future to look like? We want cooperation amongst each other.
Hmm.
Cooperation, you look at any species from ants to birds, they cooperate. Yes, they're vicious and violent in a lot of ways too, but there's a balance that they keep. They're not so self-destructive or ignorant that they're going to destroy the beauty and harmony of all. And
Hmm.
these are, yeah, I love to use nature as an example because it's just absolutely beautiful. Today I saw something about an octopus getting the attention of a human to go and save a turtle. And the man went. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And that is our intelligence. That's
Hmm.
our fabric of being, to even to the point of this the octopus, like, was beautiful. The man went, saved the turtle. There was a relationship developed. The octopus brought a baby octopus to the man. Next thing you know, there's a turtle and an octopus on top of the turtle swimming through the beautiful ocean. I mean, if that doesn't amaze you, I don't know what does. And I think it's important to stay in that awe and wonder, as an educational consultant. And this is something that I'm really starting to work towards, is supporting parents and finding the right fit for their
Hmm.
children. If you have birthed a human being into this earth at this point, you need to be very discerning about what you expose your children to. Um, and to me, the mainstream education system, as much as I'm pro accessibility, I think public school system, I mean, sometimes it's the best place for these children to go. They come from maybe dysfunctional homes and so on and so forth. So I don't want to just say, oh no to the public school system. They definitely have a space for the children. Unfortunately, the misuse of power, the intention of education is being missed. You know,
Is
um,
it now? Let me ask you something. Is it like that, like when you saw in like 2020, 2021, 2022, you see school boards here in the US, right? But here's the problem with these school boards meetings, is it's all politics. It's like you have the one side who's super liberal, then you have the people who come up and they're like, you can obviously tell they're coming up to speak for their kids, but what they're saying is Trump my God, Trump is my God, Trump is my God, Trump is my God, please. You know what I mean? Like it's so obvious. Like, can't you just stand for humanity? Can't you just get rid of the political nonsense and say, look, I'm here standing up for my kids. Stop mentioning, Trump's name or whoever it may be, or and say, hey, look, I'm here standing up for my kids, for all of humanity, whoever you may be, and just, I want what my child came here to be educated for, what they deserve, whether it be, being able to breathe freely, being able to not have to worry about, forced injections or, rhetoric being taught in schools, you name it. But in America, I don't know if it was like that in Canada, and maybe it was, but it was all one-sided. There was nobody who was just like completely freedom based, it seemed like, that would just take a stand.
Yeah, so it's infiltration, right? It's
Hmm.
it's
Exactly.
leaking into the school systems because the school systems are now a business. They're now owned and operated by, private companies. The public school system, it's infiltrations. They're like little army camps,
Hmm.
and parents, they have to stop supporting the the things that don't work. We have to start pulling our kids from the school. Take your money, take your tax dollars, and pivot it and put it into things that you support. We have to
Hmm.
be more action driven. We have to start. One, we can look at why we're having kids, like this whole traditional thing of the nuclear family. We kind of talked about this before. Like, it's over, guys. That pipe dream, that you know it no longer is serving the paradigm of what we're living in anymore.
Hmm.
Okay, so you cannot just think married with children and la di da da. It's not possible anymore. Like, it's fading out. It's
Hmm.
fading out. So we have to be very conscious and intentional on how and what we're doing. We are the creators of our world. Don't just do something because that's what Disney taught you or that's what you read in your favorite storybook. Being a mother, I mean, I didn't plan my daughter. A lot of us were not planned. A lot of us were out of wedlock. But I don't know what it's like to not have a child being a woman. So I am
Hmm.
sensitive to the fact that people have this like longing. The thing is that the system that was set up for you to live this pipe dream, excuse my terminology, no longer is serving. You're being used as minions to support a bigger agenda for the rich. And
Hmm.
it's we have to burn that book. It's no longer the same. It's not what's happening. What I love seeing and is Eat the Rich. He's been seeing a lot of that around lately, and I giggle. I don't literally want to eat the rich, but I just love that people are seeing how destructive rich people can be.
Hmm.
The selfishness, the greed is absolutely insane, that people think that they have the right to a $250,000, $250,000 yacht, and when somebody doesn't even have the right to free speech or clean water. And the disparity is absolutely insane. How can anybody feel good about living in a world like that? We should all be concerned, that I was just down in Miami, Florida. The amount of money there is absolutely insane. The gentrification that's happening is absolutely insane. I went between like a Louis Vuitton and Chanel little spot,
Sure.
walked about 4 blocks to this art district, and I felt like I was in like a different world, the in
Oh
between,
yeah.
and I just couldn't believe it. So these smart cities, they're happening. They're building them.
And
The
one thing, yeah, not to interrupt you, but you're right on those smart cities because I was recently in Columbus, Ohio, for the second time in like 2 months, and right in the storefront, it says, sustainable goals. We want this right away. Get your Ohio chapter of, you know, to you know, call them now. We want it's like govern me harder. George Orwell, 1984. Come at me right now, and it's it's coming. It's coming big time.
So is this is the thing, because I've been in this contemplation and for quite a few months now, because it's coming strong. I cannot believe
Hmm.
it. And so especially with this weather, like this is now it's right in our faces. Some believe that this is Monsanto trying to control the seeds and the food. So if you think food prices are high now, just wait and see. Now this
Sure.
is the thing: we don't have to wait and see. We just need to be proactive, be the species that adapts. Go back to growing your own food, shared co-ops. Do We used to do bulk buys, so we'd buy like 10 pounds of brown rice, organic brown rice, and 2 3 families would share. We have to be intelligent and to take the focus off. It's like, let's just, this is going to sound silly, but I'm going to go here. It's like soccer teams. Okay, there's one soccer team that they're rough and they're violent, and they and they
Hmm.
they shit talk you, and the sportsmanship is non-existent, and they're not even that good at soccer because they're not even focused on the game. They're focused on being bullies and all the rest. And then you have this other team who's grassroots. They started from the bare bone. They love the sport. They're good at it. they
Hmm.
they work together. We have to focus on that's who we are, to our fabric. We are good, loving, supportive humans
Yeah.
that it's our time to rally together. Rally together. We can watch from a distance the bullies burn down their own house, you know, but we have to take our energy and start to build together. Investing in each other, right? This is where, again, I'll go back to the education. This needs to be taught in schools. Our children need to understand what e-commerce is, what currency is, where it started, how it can change. These kids are hungry for innovation. They've got it in them. They're arriving to this earth very well aware in their DNA of what is happening here. They're not coming like without reference to what's happening. We have to believe that we are
Hmm.
like a bigger intelligence. So they're arriving. If we don't give them the fundamentals, or at least the options, the possibilities, like it's like anything. To bread, you have this, the flour. So if we don't give them the basic ingredients, they're not going to be able to use their intelligence to manifest and make some great things happen.
Exactly. And I think one thing that that people don't get, and maybe you can chime in on how we come up with a solution, or if there even is a solution on it, is the parents completely indoctrinating their kids too, because like, okay, that maybe what happened in 2020, and then parents are just so gung ho on one side or the other, whether it be Trump or the other side, that they just indoctrinate their kids so heavily so that their kids can't think for themselves. Their kids can't say, "Oh, well, that person's this, that person." When did we never really experienced that growing up? I don't think so. I don't think it was so politically driven. We weren't in such a politically driven society. Yes, things were happening. Like, for example, I think a lot of the things when you said, like people growing up saying they got to have kids. Well, yeah, we were indoctrinated into these family sitcoms, The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Growing Pains, uh, you name it, and the Wonder Years, where it was like, that's what you do. You go in and you have kids. They put that in you. You go after school. You watch these sitcoms. You watch them at 8 p.m. In prime time. You name it. You talk about it. That's what you're taught in schools. Is you go and you have kids. You name it. But it, especially in 2020, you know, we just saw a shift. We don't see, you know, like in our time where it wasn't political. Kids were just having fun. They were doing their thing. They were involved in activities, involved in, different, studies at school. But now it's just like, you know?
It is frustrating, and every day I see more and more how grateful I am for the
Hmm.
childhood I
Sure.
had. And we were raised in a good time, man. There was some really explosive and amazing creative energy. We didn't have a lot of censorship. We were launching ourselves off things with no helmets. We were really putting our courage to test, and we felt alive. I mean, I remember playing, even as a female, and um, I played outside every sport from dawn till dusk, even past when
Hmm.
the street lights came on. We might have to go and check in or eat something or whatever, but we were safe, we had fun. And what I was going to say in response to the parents nowadays, it's a real shame that they're using their children and they're projecting their lack of intelligence is what it is. It's
Hmm.
ego induced thinking. For the first time, every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a say in things. Back in the day, I mean, people were afraid to speak up because they didn't know. They didn't have the language and they didn't know. That's there's some problems to that as well. I think that's how, like, you know the men kind of divided the people, right? And they just kept making money, and we were just like, well, we don't know what's going on. Now everybody's sharing every little thing, and they think they actually are right without having fact checked or whatever. I hate seeing parents on social media using their kids as laughable icons. That's not their purpose, man.
No. Hmm.
Purpose is not to get you credit on social media. Children, and my body's getting hot, and all the things, because this is just really to my heart. Children will do whatever you want them to do because they're reliant on you. You feed them, you house them, you love them. They're vulnerable little creatures. So if I remember my mom making me and my sister do these dances and stuff, and in hindsight, I didn't like it. I had to dance with my
Hmm.
cousins. Like, I didn't like it. It made me feel weird. And what did I learn? I don't have consent. I don't have the right to consensual behavior. I have to do what I'm told. So we're taking advantage of our kids. We're taking advantage that they're vulnerable and that they don't have a voice, and they're making them become minions of what we want them to be. Now, some of that is natural, but I had to kick, scream, blow up, become almost self destructive to free myself of my own family indoctrination. I don't want any kid to have to go through what I had to go through. It was tough, man. Do I love my family now and whatever? Yeah, but wow, carving a new path was exhausting and it was
Hmm.
hurtful because my own family, who I thought was supposed to love me through this, were challenging me, disowning me, telling me I was crazy. Now the laugh is on them, to tell you the truth, because little did they know I was being guided. It's hard if you feel called to this work. It's not by mistake.
No, not by any means.
Not by mistake. Now, I, as a teacher, as an educator, as a lover of life and humanity, I take it my own personal duty to, I'm not going to use it, but I love to inspire my young students to be like me in a sense. As
Hmm.
I question the system. The other day in class, I said I shouldn't say this, but I do cross the line quite a bit. And that's where I'm like, I can't be in this anymore because I don't want to get in trouble. It's not that I'm not afraid of getting in trouble.
Hmm.
My sensory, emotional sensory, it doesn't feel good. Like it kind of it tells that story that you don't belong, right? Like it tells that story of, and I'm not trying, like now I know after 40 plus years, I don't want to fit in to a paradigm that doesn't celebrate everybody, that doesn't have respect for the human soul, the human being.
Hmm.
There's a way of doing it. So those parents that are using their children without the awareness, what it is and how I see it as is it's a dissolving, a huge dissolving of ego is happening right now. So you're either kind of in awareness of what's happening. All of my beliefs are being in question. I don't know if I love my husband the same way anymore. We don't have the same question. Like all these things are starting to shift and really challenge us. Don't be afraid. It's the dissolving of the old paradigm. You can walk forward with all that, who you are. At the end of the day, I went to a visitation funeral yesterday, and it was a family friend, and there she was in this box alone. In we all die alone. So if you don't claim your own life, not saying,
Hmm.
but it starts with the individual. You have to individualize yourself and
Exactly.
we join the rest. And there's a very important work that has to happen, and that is that walking through the death of the ego, and not like there's the ego part. The thing is over top of the ego is the higher knowing self. The point that I'm trying to make is the ego, the one that good and bad, the duality, that's not in charge. That
Hmm.
is your higher self is in charge of that. So if you're constantly having a conversation, now I think they're happening with kids a lot because the kids want to be they want to be approved of. They want to fit in. And they should feel that way. That's part of the natural evolution of any species. You have to feel like, you have to be a part of first and foremost. Otherwise, you will die. You don't see
Hmm.
rabbits going, oh, fuck you. I'm going to go dig it on my own. No, at first, they have to be a part of the family. So the kids, um, yeah, they're being signed up for with parents. You see them, they look at their parents. I did it too. Oh, what's the right thing to say? What's the wrong thing to say?
Hmm.
And then they come to school and they're saying it at school. They say that our job is to help them critically think. We're not doing that because we're
No.
indoctrinating the same bullshit, man. I did a class yesterday. I'm like, this is the same thing to the point that when I chose to share a story with the children, right, inducing and evoking imagination, they said, we need to do the slides that the teacher left. And I thought, wow, you're going to choose
Mm.
to do boring slides, you
Yeah.
know, over like an exciting story.
Hmm.
you know, I finally got them hooked in, but I was just like, I looked at this little guy and I thought, you know, it's just like, wow, I don't even know what to say anymore sometimes. It all worked out okay, but I felt sorry for the kid that, he can't even choose childhood. He doesn't even know how to choose childhood. He just wants to do, what
Hmm.
he thinks he's being told to do, which later in life he'll realize was the wrong thing. Not the wrong thing, but it's just so sad that we're manipulating these kids, and they know, these Rockefellers and these guys, they know that our children are the vulnerable ones. They know that's why they started so young. In Canada, we went and opened up our schools to 4-year-olds. 4-year-olds are going marching to
Hmm.
school with their little backpacks and, you know, fine, community involvement, sweet, but no, that's too young. Be at home with your grandma, be at home with your mom, be at home with the neighbor kids, whatever it is. The learning at home, I know this sounds like we have to work. That's what the opposing chat is. We have to work. No, you don't. You choose to work because of your two-car garages and your big fat house. You choose that. You don't
Hmm.
have to do it. You choose that, and you're choosing it against raising your kids because the school systems are not responsible for raising your kids. And if you
No.
knew what was happening in schools, you wouldn't send them there. Like, it's not all bad, but it's definitely not that good either, especially in this day and age. We are teaching kids 1850s stuff, like, or whatever the Rockefellers induced this or introduced all of this.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm over speaking, but that's a rebel in me, Mark.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And then you see things like, okay, they're getting indoctrinated, not necessarily in like sports that they're playing in school. I guess it could be that way, but when they're watching sports, here's a prime example. I try to I most of the sports, if I'm watching sports, it'll be like European soccer because I'm like, uh. Or I did go to an NHL game when I was in Columbus, and it was refreshing because they're not like you Canadians. They're rather chill, when it comes to NHL. I mean, it was good. Anyways, last night I was watching because I'm from Michigan originally. So I was watching Michigan in the tournament. And guess what they do? This is CBS Sports. They say they pull this out of their playbook because they're playing Auburn, the school that's in Alabama, which is beside the point. And Auburn's coach had invited one of the alleged last Hamas, you know, the families that were captured by Hamas. So you're playing a rhetoric of, you know, well, we're going to be anti-Palestinian, right? We're going to praise this coach who's pro-genocide. And this is no offense because you and I, we have friends who are, Israeli, friends who are Jewish, but they stand against what is going on. They stand against war. They stand against destruction. So you have kids watching this NCAA tournament, which is a staple, and you have them praising this coach who is pro genocide, pro wiping out of humanity, pushing a doctrine, and I was just like, oh, had I known that this coach was like that, I wouldn't have even watched the game because I don't want to support that anymore. When I'm watching
Miami.
something like European soccer, you don't see that. They're just playing the game. It's not this, that, and the other. And there's a place for things in that, and I'm all about free speech. You're allowed to do whatever you want, but we're allowed to say, hey, we're not going to support that with our mind, you know?
And honestly, dude, like, this is it. I mean,
And when we're woke like we are, we get it right away. It clicks right away. We see it. We're like, oh, wait, they just went there?
I know. And look, at vulnerable, you're in the stadium, you're
Hmm.
already bought your ticket. There
Yeah.
you are. What a perfect place to
And luckily, I was at home
wait.
watching it from my, couch, but it's like, and I didn't see that when I went to the NHL game. I saw Nothing like that whatsoever.
Miami was pretty interesting for that. Like just like randomly, like Hamas is a celebration, like an honor to the families that are lost. And I mean, unbelievable. Yeah. And the best thing I can say is just, you know, we cannot get swallowed up by it. We have to also not be afraid. We have to see it as an opposing architect of
Hmm.
something trying to develop, and we're just not going to support it. If people stop going to these games, like civil disobedience, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
just say
Hmm.
it's fucking powerful, man. You take your money, you take your kids, you take our rights away from them. They are not going to have the money that supports these billion-dollar freaking sports
Arenas and
enterprises. They're empires, man. I mean, it's unbelievable. I had this post up in the Hunger Games, right? Like, and I don't know if you've seen that video of just like the depiction of how it's actually like actually happening, right? When you see these Met galas and then the poor people
yeah,
on
I
the
have seen
street,
it.
billionaire soccer players, and then again people on the street with nothing. I mean, it is this polarizing thing. But the people who are saying "eat the rich," I'm sorry, I think I need a T-shirt that.
No, that's yeah, I feel you.
We are powerful too, and our hearts aligned, miracles, man. Like that's the most powerful thing, right? And that's what they say all of this is about, is to try to defrequency, I don't know, that's not the right word, but like to dumb us down, to
Hmm.
make us not so, we're energy, right? So it's like to not make us so expansive. So these conversations, celebrating joy, celebrating nature, loving it, we are like, it's a ripple effect of just beauty. So I know I said a lot about the shit that's happening at schools. I respect it, but I want something different for these next children,
Hmm.
Um, I went through school and it was not fun, man. I did not like it at all. I know this now. It took me 25, 30 years to unfuck myself from all of that, you know, and not, as well as like, you know, unfortunately I had a destructive life for a while, but part of it was to unlearn and decolonize myself, and I'm not saying I live in some, I'm not. Anyways, I found my freedom. I found my voice again. I found myself. I've always been in the right in my own understanding. And I just want to share that with other like minded people. I want to help parents and families understand that there's choices. And if we don't exercise our choices, our children are going to become little
Hmm.
soldiers, and these entities, which we didn't get into, these this corporate evil, they don't care. They're also
No.
potentially sex traffickers. They live off the blood of, I don't know, little kids. I don't know what's going on, but it should scare the fuck out of people, that we live on a planet. We're sharing a planet with these people, and they're not even people.
Hmm.
I actually
No,
think they're.
They Live was a documentary. Exactly.
Yeah. But like, so don't send your, we have to be discerning, and yeah, wow, you said a lot there.
But I think one thing in wrapping this conversation up, one thing that resonates is that you're not the only one who has so many people I talk to, especially people who are just standing up for humanity or get what's going on in the world. They say the same thing. I hated school, growing up. I think especially around like the high school years. I mean, freshman, sophomore year, I went to Catholic school. Then I'm like, Dad, it's not worth the money. And he's like, well, you're going to have to wait until the end of sophomore year. And I'm like, okay, I'm stuck another half year at the Catholic school, and then I go over to public school, which is better, but it's one of the largest high schools in Michigan. And I will say this: they had a lot of great opportunities, but they also have the indoctrination. There was one, it was called World Studies. That's the name of the class. I remember it well. And the history classes, bored me to death because you really don't know what if that was truth or if that was, but things like World Studies, they'd get in every Friday. Part of World Studies was you'd get in a circle. You're basically doing model UN. You're each a country. I forget what I was one of these countries, Qatar or whatever it may be, and they're teaching you all this stuff. Even things like what was so funny, my senior year, I was taking a government class, and he tells you, hey, your vote does not matter. It's all the electoral college and we're like, our vote doesn't matter. What are you talking? So more power to him for being honest, for speaking the truth. But it was so just the rules and regulations of a school system, and this was public school, right? They had it for some reason. They went and told my dad because I'm living with my dad at the time, and they said, "Oh, well, because because Mark didn't get service hours through government, he's in great danger of not graduating." And I'm like, I'm completing all my courses. I'm doing fine. I'm doing working also. I got cooperative education credits for that, and because they said I didn't give volunteer hours for my government class, I was in great danger of not graduating. So what I had to do was I had to go to a retirement home and play Skippo and get some you know uh you know hours
Yeah.
of volunteering to say, hey, oh no, he's fine. But if he hadn't have done that, it made no sense whatsoever.
No, and sometimes the teachers don't know themselves, like what they're involved
Mhm.
with. They really don't.
Sure.
A lot of teachers are actually wounded, traumatized, codependent people that get into it looking for a little bit of autonomy. We could get into that another time. The one thing I just want to say before we end is, Tupac Shakur, man, he spoke about
Hmm.
education, and I mean, he was he was powerful in what he was trying to say. He was saying, like, stop teaching us things we can't use or don't need in the real world.
Hmm.
Like, and I thought it was
Good
funny when he
point.
said, like, well, how is speaking German going to help me pay my rent or help my mom with the groceries? Like, I can't even live well in my own community, let alone go to Germany. And it should baffle people. Like, we should be like shocked, stunned, like, yeah, what the fuck.
Hmm.
I think that is the super consciousness that we can invite into our world, into our lives. I will say that be careful if you do invite it in, because your life will never be the same as you know it, right? So I think you've been through that. I've been through that. I've had to sacrifice a lot of things that I've loved, and because I'm now on this mission, to help humanity, help myself. I have a karmic destiny myself, but it's really to help humanity. And once you go through kind of the dark night of the soul and you get to the other side, you realize it's worth fighting for. The good fight is the good fight. We are part of a very vast, beautiful universe that supports us, that loves us, that sees us.
Hmm.
But it's through our choices now of like what we choose to support and invest in. Do not make your children the next feeding ground for these criminals. Do not
No.
give your children.
Hmm.
That's my big thing on this. I mean, this sounds aggressive. And I hope nobody comes knocking on my door there, Mark. But
But
c'est la vie.
oh yeah, well, we're not on good terms, Canada and US, so you don't have to worry about that.
Oh, in that regard, it's that there's no borders with that, man. There's no borders
Yeah.
with that. And I don't think that's fair to say. I'm good with you and you're good with me. My dad's in
Oh,
total.
exactly. It was jokingly by all
Yeah, no, it's
means.
weird though. Like, yeah, I've been seeing some things online, like fighting, we don't need you and you don't need us. And that's childish. It's
Hmm.
absolutely childish. And this is the thing, our kids do not have adult, mature, evolved humans to depend on. We are all acting like children. So we have to.
And exactly, this thing between Canada and US, it's all by design, whether it be, World Economic Forum,
This is
left,
all
right
planned.
politics. It's all by design. There is a lot of people who are like, no, I don't, subscribe to that. And
This
there's a
is
lot of people
all a
standing
big
with each
fat
other.
show. It's all
Mhm.
a big fat show. It's been planned. They're having freaking underground tea parties while we're up here fighting each other. Like, and they're laughing. Like, and we cannot, like, our intelligence is connected to love. Okay.
And not everyone is fighting each other. And yeah, there even is people who are truthers like us, and truthers are, fighting each other, whatever it may be, not speaking to each other, fighting each other over meaningless things. You name it. But and one thing I want to, I think you'll agree with is that if something like happens where one door closes, you really think this is going to happen. This is what you're called to do. This is what's called to transpire in your life, and it doesn't happen. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a good thing, and that good things are around the corner. Just keep at it. Really keep at it. And the same thing about the kids. Keep at it. You want to do something, go out there and do it. Show people wrong. Go out there and do what you want to do.
Cool, man. That gives me good
Yeah.
inspiration to launch this
Hmm.
educational consulting platform that I'm really trying to have the courage to do. You know, I'm human too. I want my coffee and pastries and nice food as well, right? I need gas
Hmm.
in my car, so it's hard to leave a good paying job, you know. But I also know that the real win is taking that leap of faith and just stepping outside the box, like, and doing what we need to do in order to co-create a new tomorrow with love and remembering the principles that we're who what founded us: integrity and love and humanity and harmony, just like the earth has provided for us water and food. Like, we're nothing without the earth, and any corporation that is trying to hinder that, take advantage of that,
Exactly.
mine it,
Mhm.
like, should not be trusted, you
No,
know.
whether it be healthcare, whether it be, the food system, you name it, and we need to see more, and I'm seeing this left and right, you're seeing this left and right, and that's how we connected, is more people being grassroots efforts, sending a message, or be open with one another, saying, hey, this is what's going on. Uh, if you're sick, do you have a name for this? Do you know this? You and I, we have connections to people who are, into health, who are big into naturopath, you name it,
Supporting each
or
other.
just
Yeah.
mental wellness. We can reach out to them and say, hey, look, you have any ideas?
Yeah, supporting each other and rooting each other on. Yeah, and I just want to say, like, I heard some great news this morning. I was listening to this. I'll send it to you. It's quite nice, and that there's a new aviation plane being built, all of hemp products, all biofuel of hemp. Like, we don't hear about it in the propaganda, fear-fueled media that's
No,
controlling
you
our
don't.
freaking minds,
Hmm.
but it's happening. We're doing it. We got to continue to move forward. And if you want to be eaten, then have your priority be money, because I'm sorry, but that's just not going. It's not sustainable. If your principles and your values are all wrapped up in being rich, it's part of an old paradigm and it's dying. So I don't know, get on board with some good vibes of cooperation, and taking care of each other, because we all die in a box at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, I really appreciate this, Caroline. This has really been such a great conversation, not only talking about education, but just as we as a humanity as a whole can, better ourselves and be there for one another. So, keep at it. Much love to you, and, message, go out there and do what you want to do. Nobody's going to
Thanks.
stop you.